So this video is how to EQ a mix from start to finish. This is a lot longer form than most of the content that I put out on YouTube. However, I figured I had made it anyway, I might as well put it out there. This is actually for one of my one-on-one mixing students that I created a video to demonstrate how to EQ a mix from start to finish with only EQ. If you struggle at all with EQ, then I would also encourage you to pick up my EQ guide, which you can find for free at mastering.dinosaurdogstudio.com. The link is right below this video. Welcome to the video on how to EQ a mix. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna actually EQ this entire song from start to finish. And the method that we're gonna use to do that is this, is how to EQ a mix. And we're gonna go through every single step on this to teach you exactly how you should be EQing your mix as you go through it. Later we'll add in some compression, but just for this video, it's only EQ. So let's start off with cleaning EQ for individual tracks. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna go through each individual track and listen to it and see if there's anything that is muddy or that is harsh, resonant frequencies, anything that we want to take away from the tracks, just to clean up the signals, to make it as clean as possible before we actually start diving into tonal shaping and anything else. So what we have here is a mix that's up to the point where we've already completed the static mix, meaning we have a good volume balance for everything, and all we're really looking to do is to start EQing and processing everything. So that's the point that we're at in the mix, and then I'm gonna go in each individual track and cut out what I don't want inside of that signal before I actually go in and start looking at the mix as a whole and start doing any tonal shaping. So let's begin, and we're gonna start with our kick. I'm gonna give you just a couple seconds of the song so you can know what we're kind of dealing with overall, what the vibe of the song is. So there's our song. What we're gonna do is we're gonna dive in. Let's just start chopping away at these. Yeah, honestly, that sounds pretty good to me. Most of these tracks are pretty clean, so I probably won't have to do that much, but just for the sake of going through each of these and doing it, we'll make sure that we're catching anything that we find. I think that area right there is just kind of obnoxious when it's in there, so I'm gonna cut that little spot out. Let's go to the kick sample. Yeah, this is pretty clean. So this one, I've got a lot of low end energy here. I'm just gonna cut all of that out so I don't have to really think about it or worry about it. Yeah, so the snare is kind of an interesting instrument because there's always going to be some resonance in the snare, or usually there is, in a well-recorded acoustic snare. And that's really just the tone and note of the snare itself, whatever it's tuned to. And so sometimes, depending on what style of snare you want, you might want to just leave that in because it kind of makes the snare sound more natural. But let's just try taking out some of that ringing and see if we like that more. We can A/B it after that. So you can see I'm kind of centering around on a harmonic of the root note, which is down here. That's what I was hearing. Okay, I do like that a little bit better. So let's keep moving on. Yeah, so I like that a little bit better. Let's keep moving on. Find somewhere the toms are actually playing. Looks like I'm doing quite a bit up here. Yeah, I mean, it's not really doing much. Again, the goal here is not necessarily doing anything tonally. It's really just nailing down any resonant frequencies, anything that's just garbage that we don't want inside of our signal at all, for sure, before we go into any sort of tonal EQ. So let's listen to the next tom. Now we're moving on to the bass finally. So let's listen here. I'm just gonna plug in mono just so we can, and turn mono on just so we can, don't have to worry about where everything's panned. This sounds really muddy, but I'm really not gonna do that much about that right now. I might do a low pass or a high pass here just to make sure we're getting any of the really low end muddy stuff that we don't wanna hear. But again, our goal is not tonal EQ here. Yeah, so I like that little cut there. The one thing I'd want to be careful of with electric guitars is taking out too much. Because you can definitely overdo it with electric guitars because there's a lot of nasty stuff right up there on the top because of how much distortion there is on there. But if we do it too much, then we're just going to suck out all the life out of the guitar. Yeah, but I like that cut. It's just kind of an obnoxious noise up there. Yeah, honestly, I don't really hear anything in this one that I want to take out, so let's move on. So when I take that out, it sounds a little hollow. I think I got one of the actual notes in the chord, so I don't want to take that out. All right, that sounds pretty good. So I actually happen to know that they are copies of these ones, so I'm just gonna pull over. Those. Okay, that's looking good. Now let's move on to our lead guitar. Now we're on to the vocals. So because all these vocals were recorded in the same place, I'm probably gonna do this on the actual vocal bus rather than the individual tracks, but let's take a listen. So we can identify any of them.
You're the one that got away. Whoa, whoa,
Okay, yeah, I think those are really helping clean that up. Yeah. There's some noxious frequencies up there when it's not Yeah, I can hear them here too. So I'm just going to apply this across the board because all these vocals were recorded exactly the same in the same place by the same singer, so there's no point in me going through and doing each one individually.
And in a land I'll make believe, can we pretend it's you and me? We can't have this, no, this isn't what we want.
Sounds good.
One that got away, and now it hurts my heart to say we can't have this, no, this isn't what we want, it's what we need right now.
As you can tell, it's actually making those vocals a little darker, but I'm okay with that just because I know that I'm going to go through later and do some more tonal EQ and
Got away, and now it hurts my heart to say you're the one that got away, and now it hurts my heart to say we can't have this, no, this isn't what we want, it's what we needed right now. And in a land I'll make believe, can we pretend it's you and me? We can't have this, no, this isn't what we want, it's what we needed right now. You're the one that got away, and now it hurts my heart to say.
yeah, those are the same exact issues that I'm hearing, so I'm going to copy that across the board on all these vocals. This is actually a different singer, this is me, so. Yeah, so this is really unusual. I normally don't make this many cuts, just this track just doesn't really sound that great. You know what, I am, just because there's so many issues up here, I'll leave that one. I'm just gonna do a high pass. This is a backing vocal anyway. I don't really want to hear all that high end frequencies. There we go. That's much better.
Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself. I myself. I'm sorry, I thought you were someone else.
Okay, there we go. Now we have first stage of EQ done, which is cleaning EQ. So the next thing that we want to do is a mix bus tonal EQ. So that's going to be looking at the mix as a whole and putting some EQ on our mix bus. And then to do this, I'm going to go to the loudest part of the song, that has the most stuff going on, EQ that section. It's probably the chorus here. Yeah, this is good. We'll use this. So it sounds a little muddy to me, probably around the 200 hertz range. It's a little bit too much. Yeah, so just listen to how much mud that clears up. So here's before. And after. that's what we're really going for, is just to fix the major issues inside of the mix. And then just move on. We're not gonna spend too much time here super analyzing it. I only made a couple cuts here, one boost on the low and top end, and that's all I'm gonna do. So we don't wanna try to fix everything right there. We just wanna focus on the biggest issues inside of the mix so we can get 80% of the results without spending that much time there. So that is a mix bus tonal EQ. So we're done with step 2 now. So next is going to be the instrument bus tonal EQ. So we're going to go through each of these buses now and listen to it. And so just a disclaimer I also wanted to throw out there is that when we were going through the specific cleaning EQ, that's the only time I'm ever going to EQ in solo. So don't make it a habit of EQing instruments in solo, because you're actually going to end up ruining the context of the mix, and therefore you're going to make bad decisions by only listening to a single instrument, because you can make something sound great in solo, but it's going to sound really bad in the context of the mix, because you're going to be covering up other parts, other instruments, other frequency ranges that are needed to be reserved for other instruments. So it's better to focus on the context of the mix when you're EQing. So with that in mind, we're going to go in and we're going to start EQing some stuff here on the instrument buses. I am going to start with the drums. I like to start with the drums just because they are generally the most complex in terms of the frequency ranges that it takes up. So I'm just going to boost this a little bit so I can get a really good ear on the drums themselves. And so this allows me to listen to the drums specifically without having to cut out everything else. So I still get the context, but I still am able to hear the drums pretty clearly. So to me, the drums sound a little bit dead. So I really want to add some high end here. And then also there's something kind of going on in the mids that I'm not super happy with. I'm not sure if I can tackle that or not here. That sounds a little bit better to me. Notice I'm not making massive cuts, so the biggest change I'm doing here is really just boosting that top end by 3 dB. I don't really want to make any bigger changes than that. I want to be fairly gentle. And so now I'm going to really start doing intentional A/B testing. So now that we have this change here, I'm going to go ahead and A/B this, make sure that I have a relatively level volume before and after, and then just make sure that I like the changes I just made. Yeah, so I really like that change. It makes the drums a lot brighter, it kind of brings them forward in the mix, allows them to kind of shine a little bit. So let's move on to the bass. So the bass technically is not an instrument bus, but because it's the only instrument inside of its bus, then we're going to do the same thing here. And so let's add another EQ. So this sounds really low end heavy to me. I really want to bring out some of the definition of the bass, and then also some of the mids just to make it seem more full rather than just low end heavy. Yeah, so that's going to cut through the mix a lot better, especially once we get further in our EQ here. Kind of leaves a little bit more room for that kick too, down that very low end. Okay, now let's start on our rhythm guitars. All right, sounds pretty good from a rhythm guitar. Really what I was trying to do here is just make it less muddy because it was really fighting with the bass guitar for that space and kind of the low mids there. And so I kind of boosted the mids a little bit just to allow it to cut through the mix a little bit more, but also remove a lot of that mud down here in the 200K or 200 hertz range. Okay, so let's go to the lead guitar. Yeah, so I really want that lead guitar to cut through the mix, but I don't really want it to take up that much space. So I'm kind of doing the opposite as I just did with the rhythm guitar to cut some of that mid-range out, but then boosted the 3K range, which will allow it to cut through the mix really well. This is a good trick. Around the 3K is a really good place to be able to make any instrument really cut through the mix and be able to be audible. But if you do it too much, then it'll also make your mix really, really harsh. So you want to avoid doing that too much. But in this case, I think that it'll be well served to allow that lead guitar to cut through the mix without taking up too much space inside of it. Make it a little bit more aggressive too. So I kind of like that. The last thing, let's take a listen to the high end here. Yeah, okay, it's not even there. Let's not worry about that. Okay, and let's move on to our vocals. Let's just pick one of the whichever vocal's singing right now. Yeah, so the vocal actually doesn't sound too bad to begin with. It's a little harsh on that top end, so I'm gonna definitely have to do something with the sibilance there. But really what I'm doing here is boosting a little bit of the low end just to bring out some of the warmth in the vocal, because it sounds a little tinny to me when we're before. And then it got a little strong in the mid-range there, so just a tiny cut there, and then a boost in the mid-range right here around 1700 hertz. And that is just to really allow the vocal to cut through. You may not necessarily like that change right now, but in terms of when we set the vocal back where it's supposed to be, it's really going to allow the vocal to cut through the mix a lot more and take up some of that mid-range space. And you're probably going to be surprised on how mid-rangey a lot of the vocals are in a lot of songs, especially in this style, because it allows there to be there's room right there generally for the vocal to be able to cut through the mix. without making it overly loud in just terms of dynamics. So that's what we're doing there. And then harmony, let's go here. We're almost done with our tonal EQ for our instrument buses. Okay, so my goal with the harmonies here is to really make them a part of the background of the song. I don't really want them to be that present. I want you to hear it, hear the tone and add to that main melody, but I don't want it to overpower or take away from the main vocals. So I'm cutting a lot of that top end here, and then also cutting around the 3 kilohertz range just to, again, make the vocal seem like it's a little bit further away, back off the aggressiveness of the harmonies, and then just adding a little bit of warmth and mid-range there to be able to allow the harmony to just blend into the main vocal without overpowering it or mask it in any way. So that's the goal there. Okay, so in this case, I actually did end up boosting around the 2.6 kilohertz, and that's really just to bring out some of the aggressiveness in this vocal. And it's really meant to be that climax of the song where it's really aggressive and big during that bridge. So that's why I kind of ended up actually boosting in that 2K range. So now that we've EQ'd that, let's listen to what we have so far. So everything on the first row here is just our cleaning EQ, and then this one is going to be our tonal bus EQ. So we can take it in layers, and let's listen to the raw song before I start to EQ anything. Our first step was to do our cleaning EQ, so let's listen to that. I'm going to play it without and then with. So pretty subtle. And then our mix bus EQ. Okay, and then our tonal EQ. Okay, so you can tell there's a lot of changes in terms of just gradually making the mix come together. So there's not any major things that I'm doing here. I am just trying to slowly improve each little tiny step at a time. I'm not trying to do any major changes on any one given track or move. So with that, our next step after our instrument bus tonal EQ is track tonal EQ. So we're going to dive into specifically the drums because everything else is pretty much uniform in terms of buses. So for example, this vocal bus is really just all 4 vocal takes, and there's really no uniqueness with it. They're all the same take. They all were recorded at the same time with the same singer, with the same setup. So there's no really point in diving in any deeper. The one place that is almost always the case where you want to dive in a little deeper is the drums, because each individual aspect or part of the drums is very, very different in terms of the kick versus the snare is a lot different tonally. So, and we have different tonal goals for those different instruments. So let's start with our kick, and we're going to do the same kind of theory as we did before. I'm just going to boost everything here. I'm going to remember it was around -2. I'm going to have to reset it anyway. Let's listen to the kick out. So as you can tell, when I actually cut all of the kick in frequencies, I actually reduced the volume of that quite a bit as well. So what we want to do is gain stage it so that I'm not hearing a difference in volume when I'm A-Bing it from before and after, in order to be able to tell if I actually like the changes that I made. So I'll listen to the kick one more time. I'll switch it on and off on these 3 kicks and see if we like it. Okay, so I'm really liking what we did there. Let's move on to our snare. Yeah, so I really wanted to bring out some of that top end of the snare just to bring the snare forward in the mix, so it's really, really present. And then also, I, again, around this 3K range, boosted that to allow it to cut through, again, the mix even more and bring it forward. And then the mid-range is just, I don't know, it just kind of felt like a pancake a little bit, and so I didn't really care for that mid-rangey sound that I had going on in the 600 range. And then I just boosted it around just to give it more body and get that kind of make it heavier, if you will. So let's see if we can adjust the snare bottom. I'm really liking that. So, with that said, let's move on to our toms. Toms are probably gonna need a lot of work here. They usually do. So that's a pretty normal tom. Really, a lot of this mid-rangey stuff is just getting in the way of other instruments and kind of makes it sound like a flat trash can. By leaving kind of the low end, you're getting the body of it, but then boosting the actual impact, kind of the stick sound, if you will, of the tom allows that definition to come through, and we know when that tom is really being hit. So it's a pretty normal approach that I would take with toms here. So let's go over with our hi-hats.
Street
hi-hat, it's kind of piercing to me. I didn't really like how much high end there was in there, and so then I boosted the mids a little bit just to bring out some of the body of the hi-hat, and then really this area down here wasn't really doing much at all, so I wanted to make a little bit more room for the other instruments in that area and prevent any kind of mud from coming up. So that was what I did there. Now let's look at our overheads.
I'm tired of being alone. Speak for yourself to a lone street. You're the one that got away. Now it hurts my heart to say we can't have this. Know it's either what we want, it's what we need right now. Need a land I'll make believe. Can we pretend it's got away? Now it hurts my heart to say we can't have this. Know it's either what we want, it's what we need right now. Need a land I'll make believe. Pretend it's got away. Now it hurts my heart to say we can't have this. Know it's either what we want, it's what we need right now. Need a land I'll make believe. Can we pretend it's got away? Now it hurts my heart to say we can't have this. Know it's either what it's what we need right now. Need a land I'll make believe. Can we pretend it's got away? Now it hurts my heart to say we can't have this. Know it's either what we want, it's what we need right now. Need a land I'll make believe. Can we pretend it's got away? Now it hurts my heart to say we can't have this. Know it's either what we want, it's what we need right now. Need a land I'll make believe. Can we pretend it's got away? Now it hurts my heart to say we can't have this. Know it's either what we want, it's what we need right now. Need a land I'll make believe. Can we pretend it's got away? Now it hurts my heart to say we can't have this. Know it's either what we want, it's what we need right now. Need a land I'll make believe. Can we pretend it's got away? Now it hurts my heart to say we can't have this. Know it's either what we want, it's what we need right now. Need a land I'll make believe. Can we pretend it's got away? Now it hurts my heart to say we can't have this. Know it's either what we want, it's what we need right now. Need a land I'll make believe. Can we pretend it's you and me? We can't have this. Know it's either what we want, it's what we need.
Okay, and there's our drums. So there we go. The only other thing that I want to really focus in on right here is these two guitars, because they're a different tone.
It's the city.
I want to make sure that we're bringing those out.
It's funny now, because I never thought I'd miss you like I do. Gotta say out loud, you're at the top of my list of things to get over. You're the one that got away. It's funny now, because I never thought I'd miss you like I do.
so now we are done with our instrument bus tonal EQ and our track tonal EQ. This means that we are ready for fit EQ. So we're almost done with EQing our mix here. Our fit EQ is going to be making sure that any already obvious or already prominent instruments that we want to be prominent are prominent. So for example, if our lead vocal is being masked by the rhythm guitars, then we want to be able to deal with that now before we move on inside of our EQ mix. So let's listen to the chorus specifically, and let's listen to see if we can spot any of that masking going on. What I'm gonna be listening for first is to my lead vocal, because I want that lead vocal to always be present in the mix and always be forward. So let's listen to the lead vocal and see if we can really hear everything clearly, make sure that we can honestly hear every word and that it's sitting where it needs to be in the mix frequency-wise. Not necessarily dynamically, because we haven't done any compression or any gain staging really, other than making sure that our levels are good to begin with. So there is a little bit of masking going on between the lead vocal and the rhythm guitar, because as you notice, the second I muted that rhythm guitar, you could really hear the vocal as well. So let's try that again. And that's really common. The rhythm guitar and the vocals tend to sit in the same space, especially with male vocalists. So what we're gonna do is, we've already added an EQ to our lead vocal bus, and I boosted around kind of that 3 kilohertz range. That's just what I thought sounded good for that track. It doesn't really matter where you boost, as long as it's going to enhance that track. And I generally do a very broad boost. And then what I'm gonna do is, once I find the perpetrator that's masking the lead vocal, so I'm gonna add another EQ here, and I'm going to go to that same spot, and I'm going to cut out the vocal. Again, very broad sweeps here, because I don't really wanna change the tone of the guitar too much, because I've already done that. Yeah, I just felt like the vocals were a little bit muddy, so a little corrective EQ there. But the whole goal is, right, we can hear the vocal a lot more clear now that that guitar is a little bit more out of the way. So yeah, we sacrificed the guitar a little bit to make the lead vocal shine, but it's really going to enhance the mix overall because we want our lead vocal to be the main star of the show in this case. So we want to pick the most important instrument to emphasize, and I'm only going to do this fit EQ technique 1 or maybe 2 times in a mix. So let's listen to the listen to the track one more time, see if there's anything else that we think may need to be emphasized over something else. So I'm thinking maybe the lead guitar, but I'm not really sold on that yet. Yeah, so it sounds pretty good to me. Honestly, I don't really think we need to do anything else at this stage. So that concludes our fit EQ. So again, fit EQ is going to emphasize what we're going to, the most prominent elements of the mix, and we're going to emphasize those over anything else that is potentially masking that one element. Now we're going to move on to pocket EQ. So pocket EQ is going to be similar to fit EQ, except we're going to be looking at instruments that tend to live in the same exact range or same octave. So the two key elements usually that need to be fixed is the bass and the kick drum. So let's listen to the bass and kick drum and see if we really hear enough separation between those two. So honestly, I do think that there's a pretty good separation already, but I think we can do a little bit more here. And so just for the sake of showing you this as well, this is what I'm going to do. So the bass, I'm going to sweep around and try to find really the core frequency that's holding down that low end and emphasize that. And then I'm going to do the opposite with the kick. Now that I've done that with the bass, let's bring up our kick. I'm going to do it on all 3 of these tracks, and I boosted 110, so I'm going to do the opposite here with the kick. But I'm also going to find the core frequency of the kick and then boost that as well. So I'm going to bring out another here. Okay, so now listen to the kick and the bass guitar before and after this change. So I'm going to start before and then bring it in. You can tell how everything just kind of gels together a little bit better. There's more separation between the bass and the kick, and it really emphasizes that low end overall. Use this with caution. You can't always fix everything with this type of EQ, but it's really handy when you need it. With that in mind, let's listen to anything else that may be in the same octave. The other thing that I'm thinking of is maybe the rhythm guitar and the lead guitar. So let's listen to those two elements. Yeah, so I think there could be something done here. And as you can tell, this can be done on either the instrument bus level or the individual instrument level. It doesn't really matter as long as you're capturing the instruments that you want. So again, these are just very fine adjustments. They should not be a major change because we don't want to change the tone that we've already established for each instrument. Let's let's start with the rhythm guitar and let's see where we want to emphasize that. So you can really tell just how much separation that adds. So I really like the way that that's shaping up as well. Okay, and then the one last thing I'm gonna look at is the lead vocal versus the harmony vocals. We'll see if this actually needs anything. Yeah, I honestly don't think there's anything needed right there, so I'm gonna leave that be. That concludes our pocket EQ. So now the last step is to just kind of reevaluate the mix as a whole, make sure we're still kind of sitting where we want to be, because we changed so much at the lower levels, and we want to make sure that our mix bus EQ is still solid. So let's revisit this really quick and see if there's anything we want to change or adjust.
It's what we need.
Okay, so I think that's pretty good. Just adjust that mid-range a little bit. Added a slight boost to our like 2.6K range. Bring us some little bit more definition in the mix and desired aggression. Let's go back and review everything that we've done so far and see how far we've come with just EQ inside of this mix. Our process here is cleaning EQ, mix bus tonal EQ, instrument bus tonal EQ, track tonal EQ, fit EQ, and then pocket EQ. So we're gonna turn all of them off. Okay, so now everything, so here's everything off. But I actually mixed this entire thing in mono, so if you actually want to hear the difference, here's the before and here's the real before and after. You're the one that